Title: And no jury, no judge, just death. True stories they don't want you to hear. It was a cold morning when the guards found him. Motionless, silent, alone, in a dim cell no bigger than a storage closet. 29-year-old Marcus Hill lay lifeless on the concrete floor. He hadn't spoken to anyone in days. No calls, no visits, no hearing, no trial, just silence and then death. But Marcus Hill wasn't a convicted criminal. He wasn't a fugitive or a hardened felon. He had never stood in front of jury, never had a chance to plead his case. Marcus was arrested for missing a court date over an unpaid traffic fine. Yes, a traffic fine. 3 weeks later, he was dead in a county jail cell, forgotten by the system, ignored by the world. And Marcus isn't the only one. This is the hidden reality of thousands across America. Men and women held in jails for minor offenses who never make it out. Not because they were guilty, but because they were poor, unheard, and unseen. In Oklahoma, 22-year-old Jasmine Carter was arrested for shoplifting baby formula. She couldn't afford bail, just $500. She was 6 months pregnant. Jasmine begged for medical attention for days. Guards thought she was exaggerating. By the time anyone noticed, it was too late. Jasmine lost her baby. Then she nearly died herself. No trial, no defense, just suffering in silence. And then there's Daniel Reyes, age 41, veteran, diagnosed with PTSD. He was arrested after a neighbor called 911 during one of his panic episodes. They said he was disturbing the peace. Daniel begged to speak to a lawyer. No one came. He didn't understand why he was there. His meds were taken. His requests were ignored. 7 days later, Daniel hung himself with a bedsheet. The system says it's a tragedy. But the truth? It's a pattern. Across the country, county jails are filled with people who haven't been convicted of anything. They're stuck because they're too poor to pay bail, because they don't know their rights, because they're forgotten. In some jails, like Rikers Island in New York, dozens have died awaiting trial. Some waited over a year for a court date. Many never saw one. Their crimes? Stealing food, loitering, trespassing, driving without a license. But their punishment? Isolation, mental torture, and in too many cases, death. Their names rarely make the news. Their stories are buried in legal files and brushed off by officials. But behind each file is a human being. A mother, a son, a veteran, a student. People who believed they'd get their day in court. But the court never came. No judge, no jury, just concrete walls and cold meals. Just empty promises and unanswered cries. And when the body is found, when the news finally breaks, the statement is always the same. We're investigating. It's an isolated incident. But how many isolated incidents does it take before we call it what it really is? Neglect, abuse, a quiet kind of execution. This isn't just a broken system. It's a silent killer. Marcus Hill, Jasmine Carter, Daniel Reyes. They're not just names. They're warnings. Warnings that in this country, justice doesn't always mean innocent until proven guilty. Sometimes it means sitting in a cage until the system forgets you exist. And when it does, you don't get a headline. You don't get a trial. You just get a death certificate. So the next time someone says the system works, ask them this. How many more have to die waiting for justice that never comes? How many more Marcus Hills are sitting in silence right now? And how many will never make it out alive? This isn't just a story. It's a truth they don't want you to hear. Because if enough people knew, we might actually do something about it. No jury, no judge, just death. True stories they don't want you to hear. Part 2. They called it suicide, but his mother called it murder. 23-year-old Tyrone Matthews was arrested in Atlanta for failing to pay child support. He wasn't violent. He had no record. Just a struggling father trying to stay afloat in a system that had already failed him. He told the officers he'd lost his job. He said he was doing everything he could. They didn't care. The judge issued a bench warrant. Tyrone was arrested during a routine traffic stop. He asked to call his mother once. They denied him. He was placed in a holding cell with 12 other men. No bed, no blanket, no space. And then he disappeared. 4 days later, Tyrone was found hanging from a ceiling vent with a strip of torn bedsheet. At least, that's what the report said. His family asked for footage. There was none. His mother asked for answers. It gave her silence. His case was closed in less than a week. No trial, no hearing, just a grieving mother and a body in a bag. But the questions didn't stop. How does a man, arrested for a civil violation, die inside a jail with no oversight? Why are there no logs showing his movement? Why did the guards wait 2 hours before checking on his cell? And why did the county rule it suicide without an autopsy? Tyrone's story isn't an exception. It's a pattern that keeps repeating. In Texas, 19-year-old Leah Brooks was detained for skipping school, a truancy violation. She was placed in a juvenile detention center. The staff said she was uncooperative. They restrained her for nearly 3 hours. She screamed for help, gasping for breath. Then she went silent. The coroner's report listed positional asphyxiation. Her lungs had been crushed, and yet no one was charged. Not a single staff member. No judge, no jury, just death. And the cycle continues. In Mississippi, 52-year-old Harold Jenkins was pulled over for a broken taillight. He didn't have his ID on him, so they took him in for verification. He had a seizure in custody. Medical staff never came. Guards didn't believe he was having a real episode. They said he was faking it to get attention. Harold died 6 feet from the medical wing. No one was held accountable. And still, no judge, no jury, just death. Across America, these deaths pile up like forgotten mail. Stamped, ignored, discarded. People die waiting, waiting for a phone call, waiting for a public defender, waiting for a date that never comes. And when they die, their names vanish. Their records are sealed. Their stories are erased. But their families carry the weight. Their mothers spend years chasing truth. Their children grow up without answers. Their names become whispers in a system designed to silence. The justice system promises due process. But for the poor, the marginalized, the voiceless, there is no process. Only punishment. We were told that in America, you're innocent until proven guilty. But these stories prove something darker. You can be caged without cause. You can be punished without trial. And you can die without anyone ever saying your name. So ask yourself, how many more names must be buried? How many more lives must vanish behind concrete and steel? And how long will we keep calling this justice? Because justice with no jury, no judge, and no chance to speak isn't justice at all. It's a slow, quiet death. One that happens behind locked doors and beneath a system built to forget.